It's a new day in a different time zone and a great moment to celebrate the arrival of SAA into Australia. This is marking the relaunch of the South African national carrier to this exciting destination on the east coast or eastern frontier of the world, also part of the group of nations where the sun rises. And the sun is really rising for South African Airways as it ushers in a new dawn, SAA getting back its wings and relaunching an important routing for the airline's portfolio, Perth and Johannesburg, Johannesburg and Perth. We're now joined by the Chief Executive of South African Airways, Professor John Lamola, to tell us more about why this is a tremendous occasion for South African Airways, one of the world's oldest national carriers, in its 90th year. So there's many things to celebrate, Prof.
It is a great day, indeed, that today South African Airways has landed on the western shore of the great continent of Australia, which is our second intercontinental route. But what is special about this is what we call the Inter-oceanic route, where after South African Airways had risen, like all airlines, from the COVID pandemic, we have been slowly and in a measured way building South African Airways as a connector of the people of South Africa, of the African continent and the world, and the stimulant of trade, commerce and tourism.
And why Perth? Why Australia? Why is that important in your portfolio?
Firstly, because with Australia, we share the same strategic geolocation, being in the southern hemisphere. Australia is a gateway to Australasia, where, including to New Zealand on the other hand, and South Africa is a gateway into Africa and the rest of the continent. So we are really combining two geolocations that have an immense economic as well as people-to-people's potential. But a very interesting one is the fact that the South African community, the immigrant South African community in Australia, happens to be one of the second largest in Australia. There's very serious traffic for us in terms of airline economics. We have monitored and studied the flow of traffic between the two countries, and the visiting family, friends and relatives connections between the two countries is immense in potential.
Okay, so there's that social capital, because many South Africans call Australia home. And then, of course, we've got many synergies, as you say, where we're located in the Southern Hemisphere, and our cultural synergies too. Countries that love their sport, their rugby, their outdoor lifestyle. So there's just so much cross-pollination.
Absolutely, and the support we have received from the tourism agencies in both countries, in Australia and in South Africa, has been a very enlightening experience of the potential of tourism between the two countries. And as you will recall, some years ago, South African Airways used to fly about 5 times a week into Australia. We're going to start with 3 flights a week with the possibility of that increasing.
Okay.
The bookings forecast currently into next year, 2025, look very promising. We're very excited about this route launch.
All right, so this is the second of the international route launches for SAA. About 6 months ago, it was the relaunch to South America via Sao Paulo in Brazil, and now Perth, Australia. So this is telling us a story of consolidation, of growth, of SAA just revitalized, I guess.
Indeed, we started in September 2021 with 5 aircraft flying only 6 routes. And then come January, there was the coronavirus.
But it led to lockdown and people can't
the
travel.
lockdowns and so on. And we've come from that period. Currently, we are flying 14 routes with 13 aircraft. 14, of course, 2 of those being the intercontinental ones, Sao Paulo as well as Perth. And remember, Sao Paulo, we are flying out of Cape Town and Johannesburg, which has been a resounding success, and we are building on that success with this south-south kind of connection. Imagine flying from Perth to Sao Paulo via Cape Town and Johannesburg.
The longest holiday ever.
Indeed. Yes.
Okay, so right now you're consolidating the countries of the Southern Hemisphere. Are we ever going to see soon, and if you do, a timeline, reintroduction of routes to Europe, North America?
We have a very measured and well-studied expansion strategy at South African Airways. Given the constraints that we've imposed ourselves, in that we have no ambition of recreating the old, the glorious South African Airways that was dependent on the taxpayer. The reset South African Airways is based on a strategy where we grow, but we amplify our network. So we do that amplification through our alliances and our code share partnerships. We are so fortunate, South African Airways, that we are members of Star Alliance, the largest alliance in the world. So even though we are not immediately having flights scheduled for London, for Frankfurt, for New York and Washington, which are the cities that we are getting a lot of pressure from our loyal customers to say, when are we going to fly to these cities? We are able, through connections with our partnerships, to get there. To be direct to your question, Lerato, we are thinking that beyond this financial year, which for us ends in April, we'll then be looking into those other northern intercontinental routes.
So if I've understood you, it's a slow, measured, organic approach.
Indeed.
The routes have to be commercially viable.
Absolutely.
You want to run a leaner, more efficient airline.
Indeed.
And you want to leverage the Star Alliance, where people can, customers can book via SAA, get on a partner airline and get to their destination without you having to incur too much by way of liabilities.
Exactly. And again, the organic strengthening of the abilities, internal abilities of the organizations.
Right.
Our systems, the kind of training we give to our pilots, our cabin crew, all kind of, throughout the whole spectrum of our staff, to ensure that we have an airline that will be able to be award-winning, to still be the best airline in Africa, and to retain South African Airways as an international, a global aviation brand that it has always been.
So when we talk about making SAA the full package, a few things need to happen. First, it's the quality of the aircraft, the quality of the service online, the training of the cabin crew, the engineers, and just the experience. So how have you really worked out this package that people sitting on this flight that is traveling 10,388 kilometers to Perth are getting the full spectrum of SAA professionalism and South African hospitality?
It takes a lot of work, but fortunately, South African Airways has a history, a legacy of excellent service that we are celebrating now, the 90th year celebration. SAA has some excellent, dedicated, loyal people who are working for SAA. They love South African Airways, I think, than even their own families. The amount of hours they put in making sure that the airline becomes what it is. And internally, we have a business model where excellence and operational efficiency, as well as the culture of safety that SAA drives, has just been a kind of a plug and play as we resumed services. We have a standard, but we have always to be conscious of our continuous improvement program, that we have to always outdo ourselves. As the world changes, we talk about the digital platforms, the seamless access to bookings when there are complaints, the rate at which we're able to respond to all of that. Those are the challenges of the age in which we are in.
All right, and compliments too.
Indeed.
It's a great airline. I flew to Sao Paulo over Christmas.
Wow.
It was joyful. So let's address the elephant in the room, and this is the fact that SAA's faced some serious headwinds and competition in the aviation industry, as well as COVID-19, but you've needed to really consolidate the balance sheet, bring it into the black, and just make sure that things are done properly. How have you addressed that as you pursue a new commercial model?
To start with, SAA has some innate competencies that sometimes we overlook. Talking about competition, we have differentiated ourselves in the market, that we are a wide-body, long-haul service provider. We are the only airline in South Africa that can do Perth and other long-haul routes. So we have leveraged on that. That gives SAA a revenue pool that is huge, which has to be matched, and that has been our focus with a cost structure, where we ensure that the costs that we pay for, the controllable costs, are controlled, and not being over ambitious. Like I said in the beginning, we are growing in a very measured way. We don't commit in doing things that we just do for vanity, and that has worked. And I'm pleased to say that for the past 2 years, SAA has produced the operational profit. Okay? The financial statements of financial year 2023 will be announced after the audit, and it's going to be a matter of celebration for all of us. The South African Airways is indeed a job creator as well. We have been able to re-employ a number of our former employees, and it's exciting.
Okay, so it's the 90th year, an airline born almost a century ago, one of the largest and oldest in the world. What is your message to SAA, customers, stakeholders, and all those who will be flying SAA to Perth and back to Africa?
Is that they are all amazing people who have faith, who have believed that South African Airways can still be an ambassador, not only for South Africa. It's amazing how throughout the African continent there is loyalty and pride that there is this airline that is carrying this flag of the nation of Nelson Mandela, an airline that carried the flag of the first FIFA World Cup games in Africa. And that is what has motivated us as employees of South African Airways, and the recognition of the fact that South African Airways belong to the people of South Africa. But behind this, the wind that has pushed us has been the support that we have received from travel trade industry, the travel agents and the various publications, and the agencies like the agencies that we have in the country, the tourism agencies.
All right, so to the Great Barrier Reef, Bondi Beach, the High Street Melbourne, South Africans can explore, and Australians can come and see Mapungubre, the Drakensberg,
wow,
the Market Theatre, the Big Five in Africa. SAA will take you there.
We feel proud that we are facilitating exactly what you have just articulated so well, Lerato. That's what makes us to wake all the more than 2,000 employees of South African Airways. That's what is driving them. Thank you.
So it sounds to me like SAA is all about connecting humanity from one side of the world to another, connecting those dots of our shared mutual cultures and values. And it all happens with an airline that has its wings back and is ready to soar. Congratulations, SAA, at 90, and congratulations relaunching Johannesburg and Perth.
Thank you.